You can start recording. I'm called Philip Mugume. I'm a member of Group 2. So we shall begin with defining
Hello.
the key terms in the question. A strategy is the formation of a unique or valuable position which involves different set of activities that are aimed at giving the business a competitive advantage over its competitors. Yeah, maybe a strategy is something like these are things you can put in action in order to achieve a certain goal. Yeah, what good things can you or unique activities can you put up as a company to achieve a certain goal? So we can add on this implies that a business must be flexible to act in response to competitive and market changes, which may include disruptions from external environments, for example, like the COVID scenario. So what can the organization put in place so they cannot they cannot decline during these periods of the pandemic? Yeah. So procurement is the act of obtaining goods or services, typically for business purposes. Procurement is most commonly associated with business because companies need to solicit services or purchase goods, usually on a relatively large scale. Yeah, mainly these goods and the services can be non-consultancy or consultancy services. Yeah. So supply chain is a network between a company and its suppliers to produce and distribute a specific product to the final buyer. This network includes different activities, people, entities, information, and resources. Mainly, a supply chain is the entire process from the need, the time you need a good or service, up to the time you really receive it. And it can also involve the management of that same service or good. So as we tackle the question, let's move to the next slide. So there are different ways in which the procurement function can do in order to so that the company can keep running or so that it's not affected anymore with these COVID-like pandemic things. Yeah. So one of the points is sourcing and supplier management. The procurement and supply chain department should apply lean manufacturing techniques. Mainly in lean manufacturing techniques now, if we can give an example of a beverage company like Coca-Cola, during this period, the demand is really so low because most hotels, bars are closed. All these, if not even beverage, yeah, beverage, the beers and sodas. So their suppliers, like now, for them, let's say they had like a contract of keeping on supplying. So they will have a lot of inventory or storage, and the storage costs are increasing. So the procurement functions needs to manage these suppliers in a way that maybe they need to talk to them and see how they can supply when they really need, so that the cost of storage is reduced on their side. Yeah. Then the next point is end-to-end supply chain visibility. With the current challenges in distributing freight domestically or globally, managing logistics has become a high priority for companies. While many logistics companies and freight forwarders provide access to detailed data on shipments, often their customers are not able to turn that data into useful insights and action. Companies Companies that put in place digital supply chain control tower capabilities to manage distribution will enable greater performance as demand grows. Okay, for example, now let's say like these companies need to, sometimes you would go like, let's say you've ordered your goods like um let's say like I'm seeing here, let's say like mask line or DHL or Spedag. Yeah. So most of these times you would go there and inquire how far. So but during this period it's not possible. You cannot move to those offices. So or make a call. And also you might find they are not having their systems at home like at work. So also most of the things they don't know. So it's better the procurement functions mainly for these, let's say these companies, they should introduce an online thing whereby you can easily monitor your goods online. Let's say like on your phone, or like you can log into something, they provide a link and you can easily monitor your goods until they reach you. Than doing even they can put in an online thing for filling in your documents, shipping documents, and even you pay your taxes online. Everything is done online so that you do not move and your goods reach you on time. You're not disrupted. It does not disrupt the business. Yeah. Then we also need to prioritize key suppliers. The supply chain of business should focus on suppliers that are key to ensure business continuity. For example, uh, sending further questionnaires via a vendor management system, understand suppliers, enhanced supply and health and safety. If we can give an example of a hospital, we have very key things in a hospital. For example, the drugs, the the PPE, and maybe, so if we can during this period, if we can prioritize on those key things other than the food, the services like the cleaners. Yeah, it's important to clean, but it's not very important like the medicine, the gloves and what, because without gloves they cannot work on that. So during this period, we are supposed to prioritize only on key suppliers as a procurement function so that we maintain continuity of the business. Without drugs, that's not a hospital. Without PPE, that's not a hospital. Without, yeah, something like that. Thank you. Let me call upon my fellow group member to continue.
Hi, my name is Peros Nankunda, and I'm also part of this group. I'm just going to do a continuation on what has been said above. So we are looking at strategies the procurement and supply chain can put in place for business continuity during the COVID-19 pandemic or any other pandemic that may outbreak in the future. So among our points, we have focusing on production, scheduling agility. This is whereby the procurement should prioritize on products that can be produced in that event, whereby raw or direct raw materials are in a shortage. What do I mean? Probably if we are, say, producing butter, cheese, and maybe packed milk, and then we've been importing the raw materials for such products from outside countries, it's time that we concentrate on having the raw materials being bought from here because we have enough in Uganda, and then probably have the same not being stocked out due to the shortages of raw materials. Then we also have a point on focusing on the tier one supplier risk. Here we look at the procurement and supply chain body identifying the company's direct key direct suppliers and understanding their ability to meet supply requirements and potential risks. Yeah. For example, here I'll give an example of Appliance World Limited, which is the main supplier for LG Electronics. It has focused and kept constant communication with its key supplier, which is LG. Yeah. And this has helped it not to go into any shortages of the market. They have given them projections of the future movement of their products. For example, if it is a fridge of a lower capacity and is moving at a faster rate, they have given all that information to their suppliers. So there is no need of them to run out of storage, to run out of stock, because their supplier knows how best they can supply them on different products. We also have a point about understanding and activating alternate sources of supply. The supply chain management team should activate alternative sources of supply. For example, this pandemic has hit China so hard and India, and we all know that Uganda and any other countries have been getting their supplies mainly from China and India. But it is time now that the procurement department gets alternative sources of supply. Taking an example, still I'll refer to Appliance World Limited. The fact that their mother suppliers, which is LG, they are situated in different countries, but the industries in China were hit so hard, they had to cut out on manpower, production had to slow down. But at Appliance World, they had to get alternative sources of supply from Egypt. LG Egypt, there's LG Korea, which chipped in, and they supported them in business continuity. They did not lack any supplies, and their market was still constant. If I go to the next slide. Also in this pandemic, we need to keep communication to the relevant stakeholders. This is very important. The supply chain and procurement department needs to keep relevant communication to the stakeholders. The stakeholders here mainly are the suppliers and customers. If we are going to lack something in the stipulated time, it is very, very key that there is transparent and timely communication to the customer that, you know what, we shall not be able to deliver this on time. Reason being, ABC, you see the pandemic and everything, but please hold. If you can hold and wait for us to deliver this, I am very pretty sure that the customers will be able to understand, and that will keep trust. They'll keep trust with the main company which has communicated to them. Then also we need to present this. I think this is a repeated point. It's a repetition. I'll jump to slide 6. Enhancing inbound materials visibility. I think I'll call upon Joel to join in on this one.
Yes, hello. Hello. Thank you very much, Perus, for that wonderful submission. Enhancing inbound material visibility. Here we are looking at the movement of material within the organization. We are saying that getting visibility to the status of your inventory at the supplier location, supplier production schedule, and supplier shipment status will help you to predict supplier shortages and respond accordingly. Companies should move quickly to get access to data and build management dashboard to support visibility and decision making. For example, we are saying companies should have setup such as command centers where supply chain professionals can be empowered to make the supply chain decision, thus maximizing supply chain performance during this period of disruption. This can be an effective strategy. So we are saying that the logistics of movement of goods, once it is optimized, then it can facilitate in having the supplies in time. Terus, thank you very much. I get back to you.
Okay. We also have a point on conducting end-to-end supply chain risk assessment. Considering that COVID has really been terrible, coming up with reactive mitigation strategies, it is important to have mitigation plans to ensure business continuity, as illustrated in the diagram below. In this diagram, we are having each category of risks implying multiple responses. As we can all see, we manage the surprise. First of all, by managing surprise, we have to accept. We accept that this has happened and then diversify operations. Also, we have the business challenge. We need to manage the risk within the framework of the other key management decisions and build up the robustness. For example, after accepting, I'm going to give an example of summer sauce. We accepted that, yes, this is a challenge, but how are we going to continue to operate? We had to mitigate the risk by having these people, our agents who do the data work, being transported to work from home, also seeking permissions for them to come to office, some of them to work from office. We also have the black swan. We have to have a strong crisis management in place and build resilience. That means that we have to build in agility and flexibility. Also, we have to improve mitigation maturity and proactive risk to reduce exposure. We have to think about the worst. For example, before the lockdown was anticipated and everything, we're not sure. But in this case, we have to think about the worst. If we are anticipating a lockdown, are we actually going to be locked down, or are we going to actually be totally locked down? So that is basically explaining how we can conduct the end-to-end supply chain risk assessment. We have to always look at the worst and budget within the worst. I think at this point, I'll give it on to the next presenter.
My name is Damadi Bavidia, and we are explaining about business continuity in the COVID-19 pandemic period. So on the point of customer and contract management, depending on the above analysis and arrangements, you have with your suppliers, there are a few things to consider on the customer side. Evaluate contracts to identify demand impact. In this case, when you're making like a procurement, you have to reevaluate the contracts to see who are the suppliers who don't bid the time for delivery. In that process, You can decide to cancel them out in order to manage production, identifying new demand. In this process, you go on identifying what customers need in this period in order to create new products on the market. We're diversifying or expanding supply network, borrowing from the manufacturing world, whereby here you expand supply networks. For example, you can start importing your product to other nations which are affected because their production is low. Increasing stock buffers. For example, increasing in the production. Instead of producing little, you can produce a larger amount of stock so that you can store. Since there is limited movement and it takes a long period of time for products to reach the company to be manufactured. So increasing buffer stocks helps in that. Maintaining fraud and vendor management safeguards. In this point, organizations can adopt a system, for example, a tracking system, where they track their products from where they are being procured up to where they will be delivered. Ruth, can I proceed with the next slide? Social responsibility. Depending on each business financial capability, some action should be through to ensure supply chain continuity. Partner with strategic suppliers to mitigate impact on employees and communities. Here, you partner with strategic suppliers, those suppliers who supply things immediately when you want them, not delaying the process. Expanding on smaller or local suppliers, whereby you can purchase products within the society you are in, instead of going for suppliers who are not near the business. You pay suppliers quicker than the standard terms. For example, here you can go to like a direct procurement, whereby you won't pass through those things of bid evaluation, inspections. You just pay a supplier directly and delivers immediately. Now, planning ahead. Residing the supply chain for resilience. An illustration. When planning ahead, you must consider some elements. For example, what's the future demand? Is it high or low? If it's high, then you can continue making that product. If it's low, you know how you come to an end. Now, how much will you manufacture in order not to get losses? And then future supply. How many suppliers are ready to supply that product or materials to you? Are the suppliers capable of supplying? Who are the capable suppliers to supply what you want? Then sustainability. Sustainability is all about, here I explain in terms of financial management. Do you have enough finances to support what you want to purchase? If not, what's the way forward? Then globalization. Globalization is all about like seeking other suppliers, like not sticking to that one supplier who has been supplying you. For example, like you explained the case of China. Most people purchase things from China. If China was affected to that much extent, what other state or country will you go to get these other products which China has been supplying to you? Then technology. Technology, I'll explain this in a way whereby you adopt technology in order to reduce movements and also copy up with the advanced changes within the environment. With technology, there will be little transmission of the disease, little paperwork needed. So this allows someone to work in a safe environment and also continue getting he or what she wants. Then risk management. Risk management can be explained by suppliers. How often do you communicate with the suppliers? Are you able to know the time whether the supplier can supply that particular product you want, or he or she cannot? So there should be another plan to insert if the supplier cannot supply what you want. Thank you. I'll hand over to Joel.
Joel, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Damali, for that wonderful presentation. And I would like also to pick up from here. It will be a continuation since we are looking at how business can be able to remain sustainable in such a tabulated environment. Well, straight away, we look at revisiting we are saying that based on an understanding of these elements, the company can ensure continuity by revisiting the following strategies. We are saying that a business to be sustainable in such a tabulated environment, it should consider adopting multiple sourcing. Multiple sourcing, we are simply looking at the geographical location. For instance, when this pandemic started, it broke right away from China, and most of our business people here have been sourcing their products from China, which has really hit them hard. But we are saying that instead of having one supplier in China, can you look ahead and probably look at Germany? Can you also look at places like America? Can you also come closer back to East Africa? By so doing, you are trying to adapt to multiple suppliers. That if these regions like China are hit, and you have other point of supply, it is very unlikely that you will have to get out of business. This will ensure that you continue to serve your customer as required. And then looking at adopt multiple segmentation strategy of supplier base. Segmentation, you simply take up a group of your supplier and then you try to concentrate on specific supplies, the supplies that you deem to be very much essential to your supply chain. And then by so doing, you will be able to strengthen the relationship, especially with such segments that you have identified out. And when the relation is up, even if the situations are tough, they definitely, the person, the supplier whose relationship is good will always keep you at heart and keep the flow of the supplies. Then we are also saying that reevaluate the supplier evaluation criteria. This one, you're basically looking at a group of suppliers, and then you try to probably you can take a criteria such as risky. Then you're looking at which countries are more riskier. You try to give it a scale of 1 to 10 and say, oh, okay, China, I think takes figure 9, and then you can also say maybe somewhere in Germany, this one has a figure 5. Somebody near here in Kenya has a figure 2, and then you try to evaluate them and zero down to one who is less riskier. This one will ensure that you continue to be resilient in such a turbulent environment. Then we are also saying that enhance transparency and visibility across the extended supply network. Transparency, this one I would say that we are looking at how often do you exchange information. You should keep transparent with your suppliers, not only your suppliers, but you can also keep transparent with your customer at such a time that with the transparency you can be able to understand and know whether there is a bottleneck in one of your suppliers, which will give you a platform to immediately switch to another alternative that is less riskier. Then we're also saying that get acquainted with the scenario planning techniques. Well, this is just an example of planning, which involves you trying to picture that what if this happens, what will happen? What if there is, you can say, what if there is an outbreak in this, say in China, where maybe you're sourcing your products? You ask yourself, what will happen? By, inculcating such programs, or rather such techniques in your thinking and planning techniques, it will help you to try to mitigate on the risks. Then the other issue is we are saying that keep your eye on the bigger picture. We are saying that reacting with agility to supply chain disruptions require a flexible ecosystem that can adjust in real time to keep up with the fluctuating capacity. Well, agility, we are simply looking at how fast we can respond to a change in the environment. For example, now at such a time where the pandemic has just happened from nowhere, out of blue, we are saying, can you change the processes? They say the processes, this would include serving the customer, processes of production, processes of importation and all that. Then we are saying also that management solutions that offer real-time data across the entire supply chain is good for many operations during the pandemic. And an example we are saying, for example, by investing in new ways to harness machine learning and blockchain technology to capture relevant data and develop perspective insight can be helpful to business. This one, basically, we are looking at how we can inculcate technology in terms of operation.
We are having less than a
And then
minute. Excuse me, Joe. We are having less than a minute. I think we're going to be jumping in recording.
Thank you very much. Maybe you can push me to another slide. Thank you. But there I can only point internal.
We're going to do what? We're going to get into another recording. I've already shared the link. Kindly jump on.
Okay, thank you. Let me rush.